We are here today to share with you the origin and the history surrounding the ceremony of the unknown soldier, which first came to be conducted in England on November 11, 1920, in the presence of His Majesty King George V, and which commemorates the many who gave their lives in the Great War of 1914-1918. We will then turn our focus to the Australian unknown soldier. The idea of an unknown soldier with full military honours came from a British Army chaplain, the Reverend David Rowton, MC. During the First World War, near Armentières, he noticed a grave bearing a pencilled inscription, "An unknown British soldier of the Black Watch." This gave him the idea that later became a national memorial. A committee was formed, headed by the Foreign Minister, Lord Curzon, which organised for the body of an unknown soldier to be disinterred in France and brought to Westminster Abbey to be buried with full ceremony among the tombs of the most ancient knights, leaders and illustrious nobles of the land. On November 8, 1920, the method of bringing the body of an unknown British soldier from France to England was set into action. Brigadier General White, accompanied by Colonel Gell, entered the chapel at Saint-Paul-sur-Tenoir near Arras, where 4 coffins, each containing the anonymous remains of a British warrior, were kept under guard. White was blindfolded, spun around to disorient him, and turned towards the coffins, each taken from one of 4 battle areas in France: Aisne, the Somme, Arras and Ypres. The coffins were sealed, unmarked and placed in a row. The identity of the individuals inside the coffins was completely unknown. It could have been a soldier, sailor or airman. The first coffin he touched was then selected to be used for the commemoration. The other 3 bodies were reburied. The selected coffin was escorted by troops lining the route from Saint-Paul to Boulogne and kept under guard overnight. The next day the coffin was placed in a massive oak casket banded with wrought iron, within which was placed a 16th century Crusader's sword from the Tower of London collection. It was then escorted to the Boulogne quay, where it was transferred to the Royal Navy destroyer HMS Verdun. Ladies, gentlemen and brethren, please rise and join in singing "Abide With Me" and remain standing. They arrived at Dover Harbour and the casket along with 6 barrels of earth from the Ypres salient was taken from the Verdun to an awaiting train, which then travelled to Victoria Station, where it remained overnight. The casket was covered with the Union flag, a steel helmet, webbing belt and bayonet was placed thereon. The next morning the casket was loaded onto a gun carriage drawn by 6 black horses and travelled to the cenotaph at Whitehall under escort. King George V stepped forward and placed a wreath of red roses and bay leaves on the casket before stepping in behind the gun. the gun carriage. Ladies, gentlemen and brethren, I introduce you to the Worshipful Master of the Benalla Lodge at St John, Worshipful Brother Ken Broomhead.
Worshipful Master, would you please place the wreath on the head of the casket and step in behind it to act as a representative of King George V. The gun carriage proceeded with King George V as chief mourner, immediately behind it, followed by Prince of Wales, the Duke of York, Prince Henry and the Duke of Connaught, along with other lords, earls and ministers of state. The casket was borne by NCOs from the Brigade of Guards, and on arrival at Westminster Abbey passed through two lines of veterans and servicemen, all of whom had been awarded the Victoria Cross. Behind those were widows and mothers of the fallen.
Catafalque party, lower casket. Catafalque party, take host.
Ladies, gentlemen and brethren, please rise and all turn towards the east. Brethren will hold the sign of fidelity. After the playing of the last post, there will be a minute's silence. Ladies, gentlemen and brethren, please join in singing Leave Kindly Light.
Catafalque party, lower casket. Catafalque party, take post.
Ladies, gentlemen and brethren, the casket of the unknown soldier, having been figuratively placed into the tomb within the cemetery, you will please rise for the playing of the lament Flowers in the Forest. The brethren will tune and hold the sign of fidelity. Finally, the two lines of Victoria Cross recipients formed a procession and filed past either side of the tomb to honour a man who spiritually and physically represents all those who paid the ultimate sacrifice in the service of their country. A soldier who was a son, a husband, a father, a brother, a friend, maybe even a widow's son.
Ladies, gentlemen and brethren, please be seated.
Careful, lady. Retire.
This concludes our ceremony as it relates to the British unknown soldier, but our story would not be complete without referring to our own Australian unknown soldier. To continue the narrative, I will now introduce the Worshipful Master of the Rutherglen Lodge, Worshipful Brother Stephen Ring.
In the early 1990s, the Australian government decided to honour our fallen by having an unknown Australian soldier from Europe interred in the National War Memorial in Canberra. In the aftermath of the Battle of Pozieres in 1916, the Australian official war historian of the First World War, Charles Bean, began to develop plans for a memorial to commemorate the tremendous sacrifice made by his fellow Australians. Plans for an Australian unknown soldier were first put forward in the 1920s, but it was not until 1993 that an unknown Australian was at last brought home to mark the 75th anniversary of the end of the First World War. The body of an unknown Australian soldier was recovered from the Adelaide Cemetery near Villers-Bretonneux in France and was transported to Australia. After lying in state in King's Hall in Parliament House, he was interred in the Hall of Memory at the Australian War Memorial on November 11, 1993. He was buried in a Tasmanian blackwood coffin with a slouch hat and sprig of wattle, and soil from the Pozieres battlefield was scattered in his tomb. Today, the Australian War Memorial commemorates the sacrifice of all Australians who have died whilst in the service of their country. It is an everlasting monument to those brave men and women who made the ultimate sacrifice. I would now like to read to you an excerpt from the eulogy given by Prime Minister Paul Keating on November 11, 1993, at the original funeral service of the Australian unknown soldier at the Australian War Memorial in Canberra. We do not know this soldier's name, and we never will. We do not know his rank or his battalion. We do not know where he was born, nor precisely how and when he died. We do not know where in Australia he made his home, or when he left it for the battlefields of Europe. We do not know his age or his circumstances, whether he was from the city or the bush, what occupation he left to become a soldier, what religion, if he had a religion, if he was married or single. We do not know who loved him or whom he loved. If he had children, we do not know who they are. His family is lost to us as he was lost to them. We will never know who this Australian was. Yet he has always been among those whom we have honoured. We know that he was one of 45,000 Australians who died on the Western Front. one of 416,000 Australians who volunteered for service in the First World War, one of the 324,000 Australians who served overseas in that war, and one of 60,000 Australians who died on foreign soil, one of 100,000 Australians who have died in wars in this century. He is all of them, he is one of us. Out of the war came a lesson which transcended the horror and tragedy and the inexcusable folly. It was a lesson about ordinary people, and the lesson was that they were not ordinary. On all sides, they were the heroes of that war, not the generals and the politicians, but the soldiers and sailors, the airmen and nurses, those who taught us to endure hardship, to show courage, to be bold as well as resilient, to believe in ourselves, to stick together. The unknown soldier whom we have interred today was one of those who, by his deeds, proved that the real nobility and grandeur belongs not to empires and nations, but to the people on whom they, in the last resort, always depend. The unknown Australian is not interred here to glorify war over peace, or to assert a soldier's character above a civilian's, or one race or one nation or one religion above another, or men above women, or the war in which he fought and died above any other war, or one generation above any that has been or will come later. The unknown soldier honours the memory of all those men and women who laid down their lives for Australia. His tomb is a reminder of what we have lost in war and what we have gained. We have lost more than 100,000 lives, and with them all their love of this country and all their hope and energy. We have gained a legend, a story of bravery and sacrifice, and with it a deeper faith in ourselves and our democracy, and a deeper understanding of what it means to be Australian. It is not too much to hope, therefore, that this unknown Australian soldier might continue to serve his country. He might enshrine a nation's love of peace and remind us that in the sacrifice of men and women whose names are recorded here, there is faith enough for all of us.
Ladies, gentlemen and brethren, the next part of the ceremony is known as the vacant chair, and is based on a tradition practiced in medieval Britain where a place would be set at a table for a member of the family who was serving their country in a theatre of war. If that family member fell in battle, their coat of arms, tabard, shield, standard, or even an article of their military clothing, helmet or sword, was placed on the vacant chair for a time of mourning. Our ceremony is symbolic of this tradition. The chair is draped with our national flag, on which is placed an entered apprentice Freemason apron. This chair will be carried by two deacons and placed in the centre east. Ladies, gentlemen and brethren, please rise as the vacant chair is placed into the lodge room. Brethren will assume and hold the silent fidelity. Ladies, gentlemen and brethren, you will please face the centre and remain standing for the national anthem. Ladies, gentlemen and brethren, please be seated. The vacant chair is an emblem of both sorrow and victory. Whilst absent in the flesh, our brethren are present in spirit, a mighty host marching in splendour, treasured forevermore in the hearts of the people. This commemoration also helps to remind us that as Freemasons, it is our duty to use every effort for the promotion of peace, love and harmony throughout the world. Let us all rise and join in singing, O God, our help in ages past. Ladies and gentlemen only, please be seated. Brethren, remain standing. Brethren, remain standing while the vacant chair is carried around the lodge room and assume the sign of fidelity when wands are crossed.
This pillar of the Corinthian order, being an emblem of beauty, refers to the glory of the self-sacrifice of our fallen comrades. Greater love hath no man than this, that he lay down his life for his friends. We cherish the memory.
This pillar of the Doric order, being an emblem of strength, signifies the strength of mind and the indomitable courage of those who endure to the end, that we might live in freedom and safety. We honour their memory.
This pillar of the Ionic order, being the emblem of wisdom, reminds us that only as we apply our hearts unto wisdom and our minds unto contemplation of their noble sacrifices and courageous endurance shall we be enabled to preserve these great qualities to all posterity and prove to the world that they did not die in vain. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise.
We remember here those who abide in that place, which the world can neither give nor take away, the unnumbered dead. The gentle breeze fans their verdant covering, they heed it not. The sunshine and the storm pass over them, but they are not disturbed, for we are reminded that we have that within us which shall survive the grave and which shall never, never die. And we may confidently hope, through our belief in the mercy of God, that their souls will bloom in eternal spring. We treasure their memory and leave them in the hands of a being who has done all things well, who is glorious in holiness, fearful in praise, doing wonders. And may their God grant unto them a time of refreshing, a quiet resting place, and the glory of life everlasting. Our hearts are filled with a deep sense of gratitude and admiration of those who paid the supreme sacrifice. And with all reverence and humility, I will now place the traditional wreath on the cenotaph. In the name of the Freemasons of Victoria, as a memorial of Anzac, I ask you to symbolically accompany me on this mission, and by your presence, make this ceremony complete. We'll now observe a moment of silent reflection.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
Ladies, gentlemen and brethren, please be seated. And let us join in singing the recession. Almighty God, Creator and Supreme Ruler of the universe, be pleased to bless all rulers and parliaments so that under their directions nations may seek peace and live in harmony, brotherhood and mutual service. Grant them such sense of justice and sympathy that the cause of distrust and discord may be removed and that war be no more. For the glory of thy great and holy name. Ladies, gentlemen and brethren, our ceremony is now complete. I will now be escorted from the lodge room. I invite you all to join us for refreshments when instructed by the Director of Ceremonies.
Worshipful brethren and brethren, ladies and gentlemen, I would ask you to be upstanding in just a moment, and you will witness a formal retirement from the Lodge of the Worshipful Master. It will only be the three Worshipful Masters sitting in these that will retire, but it will give you some idea of what to do. Brother Orders. Brother Deacons. Worshipful Master.